When Carl Peterson became Minneapolis's most reliable handyman, homeowners trusted him with their house keys and alarm codes. But when his alcoholism and robbery schemes consumed him, he began installing hidden cameras and murdering clients who caught him stealing, turning home repairs into deadly surveillance operations. Before starting the video, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. Now, let's get back to the video. The harsh Minnesota winter wind howled through the suburban neighborhoods of Minneapolis as Carl Peterson loaded his truck with power tools and repair materials for what would become the most dangerous home improvement job of his 19-year career as the Twin Cities' most experienced residential handyman and maintenance specialist. At 56 years old, Carl had established himself as Minnesota's most dependable home repair professional, specializing in basement renovations and attic conversions that attracted middle-class homeowners, elderly residents, and busy professionals who valued his expertise in older home maintenance and his reputation for completing projects on time and within budget. Carl's handyman business operated from a cluttered workshop behind his modest Minneapolis home, featuring an extensive collection of power tools, construction materials, and reference manuals for handling the complex repair challenges common in the region's aging residential housing stock. His clientele included working families whose vintage homes required expert knowledge of obsolete building systems, elderly homeowners who needed reliable help with maintenance tasks, and property investors seeking cost-effective renovation solutions for older properties throughout the metropolitan area. The interior of Carl's workshop reflected his decades of experience in residential construction and his understanding of Minnesota homeowners' needs for both quality repairs and affordable pricing, featuring walls lined with vintage tools, project photographs documenting his most challenging renovations, and testimonials from grateful customers whose homes had been saved from costly structural problems through his expertise and attention to detail. His work truck displayed handyman contractor licenses, insurance certifications, and magnetic signs advertising his reliable service for emergency repairs and planned renovations. But beneath Carl's reputation for dependable home repairs lay a dangerous combination of chronic alcoholism, systematic theft operations, and calculated murder that had transformed his house calls into criminal enterprises, where threatening homeowners and suspicious investigators met their fate through deliberate accidents and concealed surveillance activities. "Good morning, Mr. Peterson," said Dorothy Chen, his 9 o'clock appointment, and a 72-year-old retired librarian whose Victorian home required extensive basement waterproofing and electrical upgrades that Carl had been working on for the past 3 months. Dorothy lived alone with her valuable book collection and family heirlooms and had grown to trust Carl with her house keys and alarm system codes during his frequent visits to complete the complicated renovation project. "Good morning, Mrs. Chen," Carl replied with the working-class reliability and construction expertise that had made him legendary among Minneapolis homeowners who viewed him as both craftsman and problem solver, capable of handling the most challenging repair situations while providing honest advice about necessary improvements and maintenance priorities. "I've got the new electrical components for today's work, and I should be able to finish the basement wiring that will finally get your workshop space up to modern safety standards." Dorothy had become Carl's most dangerous customer, not because of her demanding repair expectations or her limited renovation budget, but because of her recent discovery of suspicious equipment in her basement and her growing awareness of the surveillance operation that Carl had been conducting while supposedly providing legitimate home improvement services. What Dorothy didn't know was that Carl had been systematically robbing homeowners and murdering suspicious clients for over 5 years, using his handyman expertise and access to Holmes's infrastructure to install hidden surveillance systems while eliminating anyone who discovered his criminal activities. Carl's transformation from honest handyman to calculating killer had begun 7 years earlier when his chronic alcoholism had escalated from social drinking to daily consumption that impaired his work quality and forced him into financial difficulties, as clients began rejecting his shoddy repairs and demanding refunds for incomplete projects. His drinking problem had grown to consume over $100 per day in alcohol purchases, while his declining reputation had reduced his legitimate income to barely subsistence levels. Faced with mounting debts and potential bankruptcy, Carl had begun using his handyman access to conduct systematic theft operations, installing hidden cameras and surveillance equipment during legitimate repair work to monitor homeowners' routines and identify valuable items that could be stolen during subsequent break-ins when residents were away from their properties. His criminal activities had escalated when several homeowners had discovered evidence of surveillance equipment and had threatened to report their suspicions to law enforcement agencies investigating burglary patterns in middle-class residential neighborhoods. Carl had murdered his first victim, an elderly woman who had found hidden cameras in her bedroom, by staging a fatal fall down basement stairs during what appeared to be an accidental slip while inspecting electrical work. The success of his first murder had convinced Carl that eliminating suspicious homeowners and threatening investigators was both necessary for protecting his theft operations and relatively easy to accomplish given his construction expertise and access to homes' structural systems where accidents could be staged convincingly. Over the following 5 years, Carl had murdered 14 additional individuals using various methods that took advantage of his construction knowledge, his access to homeowners' infrastructure during repair projects, and his ability to stage deaths as household accidents that occurred during routine maintenance work. His victims had been carefully selected based on their discovery of his surveillance activities, their potential cooperation with law enforcement, and their living situations that made their deaths easier to attribute to age-related accidents or home maintenance hazards. His victims had included Robert Martinez, a retired engineer who had discovered Carl's camera installations and whose electrical repair had resulted in fatal electrocution from deliberately modified wiring. Jennifer Foster, a single mother who had reported suspicious activities to police and whose bathroom renovation had ended in fatal gas leak exposure from sabotaged plumbing connections. And David Williams, an insurance investigator who had been tracking theft patterns and whose roof repair consultation had resulted in fatal fall from deliberately weakened ladder supports. Carl, I need to discuss some serious concerns about suspicious accidents and reports of surveillance activities connected to your handyman services, said Detective Sarah Martinez of the Minneapolis Police Department's Property Crimes Division, as she arrived at Dorothy's house carrying a warrant to inspect Carl's equipment and interview him about suspicious activities. Detective Martinez specialized in investigating residential theft operations and had developed expertise in recognizing patterns of service professional crimes that exploited homeowners' trust and access to private property. Detective Martinez's investigation represented an existential threat to Carl's criminal operation, as her law enforcement expertise and access to theft databases could expose the systematic surveillance operations and connect him to multiple suspicious deaths during home improvement projects. "Of course, Detective Martinez," Carl replied, though he felt the familiar surge of alcohol withdrawal, anxiety, and criminal paranoia that accompanied any official scrutiny of his handyman operations by law enforcement officers who possessed the training and resources to detect evidence of surveillance installation and systematic murder disguised as household accidents or construction mishaps. Customer safety and honest work are always my highest priorities, and I want to cooperate with any investigation that might help protect homeowners and ensure that repair services operate according to all applicable safety and professional standards. Detective Martinez consulted detailed reports from theft investigations and accident analyses that showed patterns of surveillance equipment discoveries and homeowner deaths that suggested systematic criminal activity rather than random property crimes or legitimate construction accidents during routine repair work. "Carl, I've been investigating reports of hidden surveillance equipment and suspicious deaths that appear to be connected to homes where you've provided handyman services," Detective Martinez said with the investigative precision that had made her successful in solving complex property crime cases. 14 individuals who were customers of your handyman business have died in household accidents, with several of these deaths occurring immediately after the victims had discovered surveillance equipment or had expressed concerns about suspicious activities during your repair visits. The detective's identification of the surveillance patterns and her recognition of the timing correlation between equipment discoveries and homeowner deaths confirmed Carl's worst fears that his criminal activities had been analyzed and connected to his systematic elimination of suspicious clients and potential witnesses to his theft and surveillance operations. Carl's response was swift and deadly, as he realized that eliminating Detective Martinez was essential for protecting his criminal enterprise and preventing exposure of his systematic surveillance and murder operations. Detective Martinez, I think there may be some misunderstanding about the inherent dangers of older home maintenance and the unfortunate reality that household accidents can occur despite proper safety precautions during repair work, Carl said, while discreetly reaching for a modified cordless drill that he had weaponized with a concealed blade mechanism for emergency elimination of law enforcement threats. Perhaps we could examine some specific repair installations in the basement where I can demonstrate the safety procedures that might explain these tragic accidents. Older home maintenance involves complex systems that might appear suspicious to those unfamiliar with residential construction and electrical repair requirements. Detective Martinez agreed to examine Carl's repair work, not realizing that the handyman was leading her to an isolated basement area where previous murders had been committed and where Carl planned to attack her using his modified drill during what would appear to be an accidental contact with power tools during routine safety inspection procedures. Carl's plan involved convincing Detective Martinez to examine specific electrical installations while explaining safety procedures, then using his modified drill to inflict fatal injuries that would appear to be accidental contact with construction equipment rather than deliberate assault by a handyman protecting his surveillance and theft operations. But Carl's carefully planned murder of the detective was about to be prevented by the unexpected arrival of federal agents who had been investigating organized theft networks and had identified connections to his handyman business. Special Agent Michael Torres of the FBI's Organized Crime Division had been conducting a comprehensive investigation into systematic theft operations that used legitimate service businesses to conduct surveillance and coordinate burglary activities targeting middle-class residential properties. Agent Torres specialized in investigating organized theft networks and had developed expertise in tracking criminal organizations that exploited service professionals to conduct systematic surveillance while eliminating potential witnesses. The federal investigation had been initiated by reports from multiple law enforcement agencies and insurance companies who had noticed patterns of surveillance-related theft and suspicious deaths that suggested organized criminal networks were using home repair services to identify targets while eliminating potential threats to their operations. Agent Torres had been conducting surveillance of Carl's activities and had documented evidence of systematic surveillance installation, homeowner elimination, and coordination with theft networks that suggested his handyman expertise was being used for organized criminal activity rather than legitimate home repair services. "Carl Peterson, I'm Special Agent Torres with the FBI," he announced as he entered the basement where Carl was preparing to murder Detective Martinez. "I have federal warrants for your arrest on charges of conspiracy to commit organized theft, systematic surveillance operations, conspiracy to commit murder, and multiple counts of first-degree murder related to your systematic exploitation of handyman services for criminal surveillance and elimination of potential witnesses." Carl's reaction to the federal agent's intervention was a combination of alcohol-impaired desperation and attempts to maintain his handyman authority as he realized that law enforcement agencies at multiple levels had been investigating his surveillance activities and had connected them to systematic homeowner murders and organized theft operations. His carefully maintained reputation as a reliable handyman had failed to protect him from comprehensive investigation by agencies with expertise in organized crime and systematic surveillance. Special Agent Torres, there must be some serious misunderstanding about legitimate home repair work and the complex maintenance challenges involved in keeping older Minnesota homes safe and functional, Carl said frantically, while abandoning his plan to attack Detective Martinez and attempting to preserve some semblance of professional credibility despite the overwhelming evidence against his criminal activities. "I am a licensed handyman with 19 years of experience providing repair services for Minneapolis families and elderly homeowners. All of my construction work complies with established building codes and safety standards designed to protect residents while ensuring proper home maintenance and structural integrity." Detective Martinez looked absolutely stunned as she realized how close she had come to being murdered by the handyman she'd been investigating for organized theft. Her property crime investigation had not only exposed Carl's systematic surveillance and murder operation, but it also prevented her own death at the hands of a killer who had been using home repair services as cover for systematic elimination of homeowners and law enforcement threats. The comprehensive investigation that followed Carl's arrest revealed the full scope of his criminal enterprise and the sophisticated methods he had developed to exploit handyman expertise for systematic surveillance and murder. Forensic analysis of Carl's handyman operations revealed extensive evidence of his surveillance activities, including sophisticated hidden camera equipment disguised as construction materials, detailed records showing homeowner routines and valuable asset locations, and comprehensive files documenting theft coordination with criminal organizations. His workshop contained modified construction tools for criminal use, surveillance equipment, and detailed profiles of homeowners who had been targeted for systematic theft and murder. The investigation also uncovered Carl's connections to organized theft networks that had been using his handyman services to identify valuable targets and coordinate burglary operations throughout the Minneapolis metropolitan area. His criminal network included fence operations who had purchased stolen goods, corrupt security professionals who had provided additional surveillance intelligence, and other service providers who had participated in coordinated theft activities. Most disturbing was the discovery of Carl's detailed knowledge of residential construction vulnerabilities and his development of increasingly sophisticated methods for staging household accidents while concealing surveillance equipment in home infrastructure, where it would remain undetected for extended periods. Carl Peterson was ultimately convicted of 15 counts of first-degree murder, systematic surveillance operations, conspiracy to commit organized crime theft, conspiracy to commit organized criminal enterprise activities, and numerous other charges related to his exploitation of handyman services for criminal surveillance and elimination of potential witnesses. The conviction sent unprecedented shockwaves throughout Minneapolis's home repair industry, prompting immediate reforms in contractor licensing, homeowner protection protocols, and surveillance prevention measures designed to protect residents from exploitation by trusted service professionals involved in criminal activities. Several other handymen and home repair contractors were investigated for similar criminal activities, resulting in enhanced oversight of service operations and new requirements for background screening and ongoing monitoring that made it more difficult for criminals to exploit home repair services for systematic surveillance and theft. Detective Martinez and Special Agent Torres received recognition for their collaborative investigation and became specialists in service industry crime investigation, developing new techniques for identifying surveillance operations and protecting homeowners from exploitation by criminal service professionals. Dorothy Chen and other surviving customers required extensive security consultations and home sweeps to remove surveillance equipment while receiving psychological counseling to overcome the trauma of learning that their trusted handyman had been systematically spying on them and murdering clients who discovered his criminal activities. The home repair industry implemented comprehensive new safety protocols designed to protect customers from exploitation by unethical service providers. The case prompted comprehensive changes in handyman industry regulation, including mandatory background checks for all contractors, enhanced oversight of home access activities, prohibitions on electronic equipment installations without explicit authorization, and new reporting procedures for suspicious service behavior involving client privacy or potential surveillance indicators. Carl's conviction also led to increased cooperation between home repair industry organizations and law enforcement agencies, investigating organized crime with new protocols designed to identify service businesses that might be exploiting their property access for systematic criminal activities while eliminating potential witnesses. The handyman and broader home repair industries implemented revolutionary new safety measures, including enhanced screening procedures for contractors, comprehensive homeowner protection programs, mandatory reporting of suspicious service activities, and improved training for recognizing signs of surveillance installation and client endangerment in home repair settings. 5 years after Carl's conviction and life imprisonment, Minneapolis's home repair community continued to implement safeguards designed to protect homeowners from contractors who might abuse their positions of trust and property access for criminal purposes. The handyman, who had promised to fix household problems and improve home safety, had instead used his repair expertise and infrastructure access to commit systematic surveillance and murder while exploiting homeowners' trust and vulnerability during routine maintenance projects. However, his crimes had been thoroughly exposed, and his victims had found justice through the dedication of investigators who refused to accept household accidents as mere construction mishaps. Carl Peterson's final repair had permanently broken his criminal enterprise, as he faced life imprisonment without possibility of parole, proving that even home repair professionals who attempted to exploit their property access for criminal gain could be identified, investigated, and brought to justice when dedicated law enforcement agencies worked together to protect innocent homeowners from predatory service providers. The handyman's final repair had fixed his fate permanently in the justice system, serving as a lasting reminder that those entrusted with improving our homes must never abuse that trust, and that service professionals who would exploit homeowner vulnerability for criminal surveillance will ultimately face the full consequences of their betrayal of professional integrity and community safety. Thank you very much for listening. Please let us know what you think of this story in the comments. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Turn on notifications so you don't miss any other videos.